Charles asks, what is the best way to invest in property if you're a young family early on in life/work? Similar to the previous question, pay off consumer debt, save an emergency fund that you only touch for emergencies, so 3 to 6 months living expenditure. Put money into a first home savers account if you haven't owned a property that you lived in before. Build that account up with government co-contributions. Have a large deposit, ideally a 20% deposit to put towards that home. Buy an affordable home. Don't over commit yourselves. There's finances are the biggest cause of arguments and divorce in marriage. You don't want to overcommit yourself. So in terms of debt, there are 3 rules of thumb in terms of how much debt you would or when you would use debt and how much debt you would use. One is that you would only invest in assets that go up in value. So using debt to buy consumables and cars and things that go down in value isn't very wise. The other point, so you always invest in assets that go up in value, and then invest, if you're going to use debt, make sure that there's a buffer between what you're investing in and so the amount of debt you have and the value in the investment. And the idea is that you have, say for example, you buy a $100,000 property and you fully borrowed the money to invest in that, and if the property goes down 20% and you have to sell for some reason, you end up with this $20,000 overhang of debt. So the idea is that rather than doing that, you have a $20,000 deposit or a 20% deposit, and then if the value of the property goes down by 20% and you need to sell, you haven't got this overhanging debt that's still there and no assets. So always invest. The idea is to have a minimum amount of debt and try and pay it off as quickly as possible. And then thirdly, from a family perspective, don't take on more debt than your family can handle. So don't put undue stress on your family by having too much debt. There's a lot of research to show that happiness, the amount of income that you have, doesn't impact your happiness, but the amount of debt specifically does. So whether you're on a high income or low income has less impact as opposed to the amount of debt that you have to your income. So just be aware of those.